The stars stretched like silver dust across the endless black of space. The human ship, Voyager, drifted quietly in that vast ocean. Inside, the crew worked with steady hands, checking screens and adjusting controls. Their leader, a man named Aaron, sat in the captain's chair. He was not the tallest or strongest, but his calm voice and sharp eyes kept his crew steady even in the silence of deep space. On this journey, Voyager had traveled farther than any human ship before. Their mission was simple: explore and learn. Humanity had only recently joined the galactic maps of other civilizations. Most alien empires still thought of humans as newcomers with little to offer. But Aaron believed humans had something special, something no map could measure. Hours passed quietly until a sharp alarm broke the silence. A young crew member pointed to the screen. "Captain, there is distress signal near the edge of that burning moon." The image showed a half-destroyed shuttle tumbling in orbit. Fire streaked from its side, and its engines flickered weakly. No other ships were near. Whoever was inside had little time left. Some of the crew hesitated. They knew this was alien territory, ruled by an empire far stronger than Earth. Helping could mean danger, or even capture. Aaron stood from his chair, his decision already made. "Prepare the shuttle," he ordered. "We are not leaving someone to die out here." The small human craft left Voyager and moved toward the broken shuttle. Heat from the nearby moon shook the hull, but Aaron guided his team carefully. When they forced open the shuttle's hatch, smoke poured out. Inside lay a single figure, dressed in silver armor with glowing marks. The figure coughed weakly and tried to rise. It was a young woman with pale skin touched by faint light, her eyes shining like crystal. Even weak, she held herself with pride. Aaron lifted her carefully, surprised at how light she felt in his arms. Back aboard Voyager, the crew placed her in the med bay. Slowly, she opened her eyes. Her voice was soft but steady. "You are human." Aaron nodded. "Yes. You are safe now." The woman studied him with curious eyes. "Do you know who I am?" Aaron shook his head. "No. But that does not matter. You were in danger." That was enough. She looked almost confused at his answer, as if she expected something else. After a pause, she spoke again. "I am Illyra, daughter of the High Throne. My people rule this sector. You risked much to save me." "Why?" Aaron gave a small smile. "Because no life should be left behind, no matter who they are." Her eyes widened slightly, as if she had never heard such simple words before. For someone raised in a world where duty and rank ruled every choice, this human's reply felt strange and powerful. Before they could speak more, alarms blared again. An Imperial warship had arrived, its dark shadow filling the screen. The crew tensed. Aaron stood calmly, watching as messages poured in. The warship demanded the return of Princess Illyra at once. Illyra looked at Aaron, her pride showing once again. "They will not trust you. To them, humans are reckless wanderers. But you saved me. I will not forget." The Imperial soldiers soon boarded the Voyager. They looked at Aaron with suspicion, their hands near their weapons. But Illyra raised her voice firmly. "Stand down. This human risked everything to save me. Without him, your princess would now be ashes." The soldiers lowered their weapons, though their eyes still glared with distrust. Illyra turned once more to Aaron. For a brief moment, the noise of the soldiers faded, and only her quiet words remained. "Human, you could have left me to the fire. Yet you chose to save me. I do not understand why. Aaron answered simply, his voice calm but certain. Because it was the right thing to do. She studied him in silence. Her heart, trained to be strong and proud, felt something new. Gratitude mixed with a question she could not yet name. As the soldiers led her away, she glanced back at Aaron. The distance between them grew, yet her thoughts did not leave him. In her world of power and fear, no one had ever spoken with such honesty. The human ship Voyager drifted quietly again, but something had changed. A thread had formed between Aaron and the alien princess, a thread woven not by duty or reward, but by choice. Neither of them yet knew how strong it would grow, or how many worlds it would shake. The Imperial warship carried Princess Illyra back to her people. Its long silver body shone like a blade in the dark sky. Inside, the halls were quiet but tense. Soldiers walked with rigid steps, their eyes fixed ahead, yet every glance at Aaron and his crew carried suspicion. Aaron stood calm, his hands folded behind his back. He was used to the weight of stairs. Humans were still strangers to most of the galaxy. Many thought of them as reckless, wild, and unworthy of respect. But Aaron did not care for opinions. He cared only for the truth, and the truth was simple. A life had been in danger, and he had saved it. Illyra walked slightly ahead, her crown faintly glowing against her dark hair. Her posture was proud, but her eyes drifted often to Aaron. She had grown up in a palace where every action was weighed for power, every word was calculated for advantage. Yet this human had acted without thought of gain. It left her unsettled, but also strangely curious. When they reached the capital world, the sight was breathtaking. The planet gleamed like a jewel, wrapped in rings of defense stations and glowing cities that shone even from orbit. Aaron and his crew were led through tall gates of crystal and steel, into the great hall of the High Throne. The hall stretched wider than any cathedral on Earth. At its center sat Illyra's father, the Emperor, dressed in flowing robes with golden threads that caught the light. Around him stood council members, armored guards, and nobles with sharp eyes. All looked down on Aaron as if he were an intruder in their sacred place. Illyra stepped forward and bowed. "Father, this is the human who saved me from the wreck near the burning moon." A wave of murmurs spread through the council. Some doubted her words, others whispered that it was impossible a human had risked so much. One elder spoke loudly, "Why would a human throw himself into danger for a stranger? Surely he wanted something in return." Aaron stepped forward, his voice even but firm. "I wanted nothing. She was in danger. That was enough reason." The hall grew quiet. His words carried no pride, no demand, only truth. Yet many did not accept it. The Emperor narrowed his eyes. "Human, do you know whose life you held in your hands?" Aaron answered, "Yes. A life, like any other. A princess to you, but to me she was someone who should not be left to die alone." The Emperor frowned, unused to such bold honesty. The council stirred again, some shaking their heads. To them, every action was tied to reward or cost. They could not understand a choice made only for what was right. Illyra stepped closer, her voice steady. "He speaks truth. Without him, I would not stand here." His courage was real. Do not dismiss it. Her defense surprised many. She had always been proud and distant, never quick to trust. Yet here she stood, raising her voice for a human. Still, suspicion lingered. A counselor asked sharply, "Human, do you seek reward? A place in our court? Riches for your world?" Aaron shook his head. I seek only safe passage for my crew, nothing more. The hall fell silent again. His answer was so plain that even his critics did not know how to reply. Later, as the council debated in hushed tones, Illyra walked with Aaron along the palace balcony. Stars shone across the sky, and the glow of the capital stretched beneath them like rivers of light. She studied his face, searching for some hidden motive, but found none. "Why are you different, human?" she asked softly. "Most would measure my life in crowns or power. You did not. Why?" Aaron leaned on the railing, his eyes fixed on the stars. "Because humans choose. We are not bound by birth or duty. We choose what kind of people we want to be. That choice is our strength." Illyra felt his words strike something deep within her. She had always lived under duty, her path drawn before her by blood and title. The thought of choice felt almost unreal, yet freeing. That night, rumors spread through the court. Some whispered that Illyra was defending a reckless stranger. Others feared the human's influence. The council argued fiercely, but the emperor gave his command at last. "The human and his crew will be watched," he declared. "They may stay until we decide their fate. But they are not to be trusted." Aaron accepted the words calmly, but Illyra felt a spark of frustration. She had seen his courage with her own eyes. She knew the council's judgment was blind. Still, she said nothing, only glanced at Aaron as the guards escorted him away. In the quiet of her chambers, Illyra sat by the window, the stars reflecting in her eyes. She remembered the moment in the burning shuttle when Aaron's arms lifted her from the smoke. He had not hesitated, had not asked who she was, had not waited for orders. He had simply acted, as if saving her life was the only choice in the universe. For the first time, Illyra felt doubt in her people's wisdom. Perhaps they were blind to something powerful, something humans carried within them. She whispered to herself, "This human is different." And somewhere across the palace, Aaron stood under guard, his gaze steady on the horizon. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, but he did not fear it. For in his heart, he knew that trust, once planted, could grow stronger than any throne. The palace of the empire glittered under twin suns, its tall towers shining like spears of crystal. But beneath that beauty, shadows moved. In hidden chambers, voices whispered of betrayal and war. The rival faction of the empire, long silent, had begun to stir. Their leaders watched the throne with hungry eyes, waiting for the moment to strike. Aaron did not know these hidden plans, but he could sense unease. From the balcony where the guards kept him, he saw how nervous the soldiers looked and how the council members spoke in hushed tones. Suspicion toward him was strong, yet he felt there was something more. The silence of the empire did not feel like peace. It felt like waiting for a storm. Illyra too noticed the change. She heard fragments of reports from scouts who spoke of ships moving near the border, supplies vanishing, and patrols attacked in the dark. But when she spoke of it in the council, many brushed her aside. One general said, "You worry too much, princess. The empire is strong. No rival dares to challenge us." Illyra clenched her hands at his words. She had seen pride blind her people before, but this time the danger felt closer. When she returned to her chambers, she found herself thinking of Aaron. Unlike the council, he had listened to her fears before. She wondered what he might see that her own people refused to see. That night, she asked the guards to bring Aaron to her chamber balcony. He stood there under the silver sky, guarded but calm. She faced him with steady eyes. "Human, I feel danger is near." My people do not believe me. They think our enemies are weak, but I know they prepare for something greater. What do you see? Aaron did not answer quickly. He studied her, then looked out at the stars. When soldiers are restless, when leaders speak too loudly of strength, it often means weakness hides below. And when enemies grow silent, it is never without reason. I believe you are right. The storm is coming. His words gave her both fear and relief. Fear, because it confirmed her doubts. Relief, because she was no longer alone. Aaron then asked, "What proof do you have?" Illyra frowned. "Only scattered reports. My council calls them rumors. But I feel it. I know it." Aaron nodded slowly. Sometimes feeling is the first truth. But feelings are not enough to move an empire. You need evidence. Let me help. She looked at him with surprise. Help? You are watched, distrusted, even called reckless. Why would you risk more? Aaron's reply was steady. Because you trusted me when no one else would. That is reason enough. Her heart shifted at his words. No courtier had ever spoken to her this way. In her world, loyalty was always tied to reward. But this human spoke of trust as if it were a bond beyond measure. Together, they began their quiet search. Illyra used her rank to access reports hidden from the council. Aaron used his sharp mind to connect details others ignored. He saw patterns in ship movements, gaps in defenses, and strange silence from border outposts. To Illyra, they had seemed like random troubles. To Aaron, they formed a clear picture. The enemy is moving faster than they believe, he told her one night as they spread reports across her table. They wait for arrogance to blind your empire. When they strike, it will be too late to prepare. Illyra felt a chill. His words carried no fear, only certainty. She stared at the map and whispered, "If this is true, then our throne stands in danger. And no one will listen." Aaron placed a hand on the map. "Then we must make them listen. Evidence speaks louder than fear." The next day, Illyra stood once more in the council chamber. Her voice was firm as she laid down the reports, one by one. Our borders are being tested. Supplies vanish. Outposts fall silent. This is no coincidence. It is a hand preparing to strike. The council murmured, still doubting. Some laughed at her fears. One even accused her of letting the human poison her mind. But Aaron stepped forward, his voice strong. "Look closer. These are not random accidents. They are steps in a pattern. And that pattern is invasion." His words shocked the council. For a moment, silence filled the hall. They did not expect a human to speak with such clarity. Yet even as doubt lingered, seeds of concern were planted. Later, as the council argued, Illyra walked beside Aaron in the garden. The air was heavy with the scent of glowing flowers. She asked quietly, "Do you think they will believe us?" Aaron shook his head. "Not yet. They will wait until it is almost too late. Pride is their shield, but also their weakness. Still, we have done what we can. When the time comes, they will remember our warning." She looked at him with a mix of worry and hope. "And when the storm breaks, will you leave, human? Will you abandon us then?" Aaron turned to her, his eyes steady. "If danger comes, I will not run. I stood by you once, and I will stand again." Her breath caught at his promise. The words were simple, but they struck her heart like no oath of her people ever had. In the silence of the garden, she felt that this human, though alone among strangers, carried a strength greater than armies. The storm had not yet come, but its winds were already felt. And in that moment, Illyra knew that when it arrived, she would face it with him. The Empire's council remained divided. Some called Illyra wise for noticing the danger, while others claimed she had been fooled by a reckless human. Aaron's words still echoed in the chamber, but pride made the council hesitate. They argued, delayed, and promised to review the reports later. By then, Illyra knew it might be too late. Days passed in quiet tension. Ships came and went above the capital, but Aaron noticed the skies looked thinner than before. Patrols were fewer, stations too quiet. The rival faction's shadow grew stronger, and yet the leaders of the Empire chose to look away. In those days, Illyra and Aaron spent more time together. At first it was secret work, searching through reports and comparing data. But slowly, their meetings became something more. She found herself asking about his world, about the way humans lived, fought, and dreamed. He spoke simply, yet his words painted pictures of green fields, blue oceans, and skies unbroken by towers. "Your world is free," Illyra said one evening as they sat near the garden fountains. The glowing water shimmered in the night air. No empire to command every breath. No throne to bind your future. It sounds like a dream. Aaron smiled softly. It is not perfect. Humans argue, struggle, and make mistakes. But we have one thing that matters. We choose. Every day, every person, no matter how small, can choose their path. Illyra lowered her gaze. For her, choice had never been real. From the moment of her birth, her duty had been fixed. To protect the throne. To rule one day. To serve the Empire before herself. She whispered, "I wonder what it feels like, to choose for yourself." Aaron looked at her calmly. "It feels heavy. Because your choices are your own, and you must carry them. But it also feels alive." His words stayed with her long after he left. The next day, Illyra brought him to the palace training yard. Soldiers trained with glowing spears and heavy shields, moving in sharp formations. She wanted to see how humans fought, and perhaps show her people that Aaron was no weak stranger. When Aaron stepped into the ring, many soldiers smirked. He carried no glowing spear, only a simple staff he borrowed. Against armored warriors, he looked small and unprepared. Yet when the match began, the smirks vanished. Aaron moved with speed and cleverness, not brute force. He dodged heavy strikes, used his staff to trip opponents, and turned their strength against them. Every motion was sharp, every decision quick. He fought not with power, but with stubborn creativity. By the end, even the proudest soldiers could not deny his skill. Illyra watched with growing respect. She saw how his style was different, unpredictable, yet effective. It was the same with his mind. He did not follow rules of tradition, but found paths no one else could see. When the match ended, she approached him and said quietly, "You fight like you think. Always finding another way." He nodded. "That is what humans do. When a wall blocks us, we climb. When a door is closed, we build a new one. We do not stop." Her heart stirred at his words. She realized that this was the strength her empire did not see. Not power of armies or crowns, but the courage to keep moving even when the path was dark. That evening, as the sun set, Illyra asked him the question that had grown in her heart since the day he saved her. "When danger comes, will you leave? My council will not thank you. My people will not honor you. They may even blame you. Why stay? Aaron looked at her, his eyes steady, his voice calm. Because loyalty is not about reward. It is about choice. I chose to help you once, and I will not turn from that choice. Her breath caught at his reply. She had heard oaths before, spoken in grand words by nobles and soldiers. But his promise felt different. It was not forced, not wrapped in ceremony. It was simple, human, and true. In the days that followed, Illyra began to feel the bond between them grow stronger. She trusted him more than her counsel, and his presence gave her strength when doubt pressed on her heart. Together, they prepared in secret, studying maps, planning defenses, and watching the stars for signs of the enemy. One night, as they stood on the highest balcony, Illyra turned to him once more. Her voice was soft, yet it carried the weight of her heart. You could return to your ship, leave this empire, and go back to your world. Why bind yourself to our struggle? Aaron's answer stunned her, as it had before. Because some bonds are not chains. They are choices. And I have chosen to stand with you. Her chest tightened with unspoken emotion. She did not yet know the name for what she felt, but she knew this: when the storm came, she would face it with him, not as princess and stranger, but as two souls bound by trust. Far away, hidden fleets prepared for war. Engines hummed in secret docks, soldiers sharpened blades for conquest. The storm was near. But on the balcony of the empire, a human and a princess stood side by side, their bond growing stronger with every word, every choice, every silent promise. The capital world of the empire shone brightly under the twin suns, but its beauty was soon broken. The rival faction had finally struck. At first it was whispers of raids on the borders, then flashes of fire among the outer stations. But now, the attack came with full force. Warships pierced the skies, their weapons burning through the defense rings. The Empire's throne world, once thought untouchable, was in flames. Sirens rang through the palace. Soldiers rushed into the halls, nobles scattered in fear, and the proud council found themselves lost in confusion. Illyra stood tall in the great hall, her voice steady even as chaos grew around her. We must rally the fleets. We must fight. But the generals hesitated. Some argued to retreat and protect only the palace. Others argued to guard the throne at all costs. None offered a clear plan. The empire, blinded by pride, had been caught unprepared. Aaron stepped forward. His voice cut through the noise. If you fight in pieces, you will fall. You must strike together. Take the skies back, or the palace will be nothing but ashes. The generals glared at him, unwilling to take commands from a human. But Illyra raised her hand. Listen to him. He sees the truth. With her words, the council reluctantly gave Aaron a small force of soldiers. They thought it would be little more than a distraction. But Aaron had no time for doubt. He gathered the troops, their armor shining in the fires of the burning city. Many looked at him with mistrust, but his voice was firm. You do not know me. You may not trust me. But you know this: your home is burning. If you fight with fear, you will lose. If you fight with courage, together, you can win. Follow me, and we will show them what it means to stand. Something in his words struck the soldiers. Slowly, they nodded. Pride gave way to determination. Aaron led them into the city streets where enemy soldiers had already landed. The rival faction moved with brutal force, their weapons tearing through towers of crystal and stone. But Aaron used human tactics that no one expected. He set traps in narrow alleys, used collapsing bridges to divide enemy squads, and struck fast before retreating to draw them into ambushes. The Empire soldiers, at first unsure, soon began to follow his style. They learned quickly, fighting with speed instead of only strength. With every victory, their trust in him grew. Meanwhile, Illyra did not stay hidden in the palace. She took her spear and joined the fight. Her people were shocked to see their princess on the battlefield, her armor shining as she fought side by side with her soldiers. Wherever she went, hope rose. And always, at her side, was Aaron, guiding their defense with sharp eyes and bold moves. Hours of battle turned into days. The skies above the capital were filled with fire, but the defenders slowly pushed back. The rival faction had expected an easy victory, but they found themselves meeting resistance stronger than planned. At the center of that resistance stood one human whose courage gave others the will to rise. In the middle of the fiercest fight, Illyra and Aaron stood together on the palace walls. Enemy ships rained fire, and soldiers stormed the gates. Illyra's spear cut through armored foes, while Aaron's voice rang out, commanding the defenders. "Hold the wall. Do not break." The soldiers fought with everything they had. Many were wounded, many fell, but they held. Every time the enemy thought the wall would collapse, Aaron's stubborn will pulled them back together. His clever traps turned the tide, his courage lit their spirits. At last, when the rival faction's flagship moved close to the palace, Illyra looked at Aaron with fire in her eyes. "This is the heart of their attack. If we do not stop it, the throne will fall." Aaron nodded. "Then we strike now." With a small group of fighters, they launched toward the massive enemy ship. Its dark hull glowed with power, weapons ready to burn the palace to dust. Aaron guided their ship through fire, dodging blasts that could have ended them in seconds. His calm under pressure amazed the Imperial pilots, who followed his every order. They broke through the defenses and landed inside the flagship's hangar. The battle within was fierce. Enemy soldiers swarmed, but Illyra and Aaron fought back to back. Her spear flashed, his staff struck with force, and together they pushed forward. At the heart of the ship, they reached the command deck. The rival faction's leader stood waiting, tall and armored, with eyes full of ambition. "So the princess brings a human to fight her battles," he sneered. Aaron stepped forward, his voice steady. "No. She fights her own battles. I only stand beside her." With those words, the fight began. It was brutal, the clash of blades echoing through the deck. Illyra's strength and Aaron's quick strikes combined in harmony. Together, they overwhelmed the leader, striking him down and breaking the will of his soldiers. The flagship fell silent. Outside, the rival fleet, leaderless, began to retreat. The skies cleared slowly, and the fires of war dimmed. The Empire had held its throne, though scarred and battered. Back in the palace, the council gathered once more. This time, their voices carried no pride, only shock. They knew the truth now. Victory had not come from their wisdom. It had come from the courage of a princess who fought beside her people, and a human who refused to leave her side. As the suns rose over the damaged city, Illyra stood beside Aaron on the balcony. Smoke still rose in the distance, but the people cheered. For the first time, they cheered not only their princess but also the human who had fought for them. Illyra looked at him, her voice soft but filled with meaning. "Without you, we would have lost everything." Aaron shook his head. "Without your people's courage, I could have done nothing. I only showed them another way to fight. The victory is theirs." But in her heart, Illyra knew the truth. The empire had been saved because a human chose to stand when all others doubted. The battle was over, but the scars of war still marked the capital world. Towers of crystal lay broken, smoke rose from shattered streets, and the once bright skies carried the smell of fire. The empire had won, yet the victory felt fragile. Every survivor knew how close they had come to losing everything. Inside the palace, the council gathered again. Their proud voices were quieter now, their faces weary. They spoke of rebuilding, of punishing the rival faction, of strengthening the defenses. But even as they planned, whispers spread through the hall that it had not been the council who saved the throne. It had been the princess, who fought on the walls with her people, and the human, who led soldiers with courage and cleverness. Aaron did not seek praise. He moved through the city helping wherever he could. He lifted fallen stones, carried the wounded to healers, and shared food with families who had lost their homes. Wherever he walked, eyes followed him. At first with suspicion, then with quiet respect. The people of the empire had seen his actions with their own eyes, and their whispers slowly changed. The human had stood with them, and many now believed he had earned his place. Illyra often walked beside him. She too helped her people, but she also watched Aaron carefully. She saw how he did not act for reward, did not wait for orders, and did not care for glory. He simply chose to do what was needed. His example made her think deeply of the path she had lived so far. One evening, when the suns dipped low and painted the sky with red and gold, Illyra found Aaron tending to one of his crew in the palace med bay. The man had been wounded during the fight, but Aaron stayed at his side until the healers arrived. When Illyra entered, Aaron rose to meet her. "You should rest, human," she said softly. "You have carried more than any one man should." Aaron gave a faint smile. "I rest when I can. But my crew comes first." Illyra's heart stirred at his words. She had seen nobles who cared only for power, generals who cared only for victory, and counselors who cared only for pride. Yet this human placed others before himself. She stepped closer, her voice quieter. "Will you leave us now? The battle is over. My people may not trouble you again. You are free to return to your world." Aaron looked at her, his eyes calm and steady. "Why do you ask?" Illyra hesitated. The question weighed heavy on her heart. She remembered the burning shuttle where he had carried her from the smoke, the palace gardens where he spoke of choice, and the walls where he fought by her side. She feared that now, when peace returned, he would walk away as quietly as he had arrived. Her voice trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. "Because I do not want to see you vanish like a passing star. You could leave, and none could stop you. Will you?" The medbay grew silent. Aaron's crew rested, the healers whispered softly, but for Illyra, only his answer mattered. At last, Aaron spoke. "I did not fight to protect a crown. I did not stay for reward. I stood because you believed when no one else would. I fought to protect a friend. And I do not leave my friends." Illyra's breath caught. His reply was simple, but it struck her heart like nothing else. For all her life, loyalty had been demanded, bound by blood or law. Never had it been offered freely, without condition. She felt something deep and new, something she could not yet name, but it filled her with warmth and strength. She lowered her gaze for a moment, then lifted it again, her eyes shining. "You are more than a friend to this empire, human. You are part of its story now." Aaron gave a quiet nod, but his eyes softened at her words. Days turned into weeks as the empire began to rebuild. Soldiers trained harder, the council finally listened with humility, and fleets patrolled the borders with new discipline. Yet behind the work, the bond between Aaron and Illyra grew stronger. They spoke often, sometimes of strategy, sometimes of their worlds, sometimes of nothing but the stars. But whispers in the palace also grew. Some nobles feared the bond between princess and human. They worried she trusted him more than her own counsel. Yet Illyra no longer cared for their doubts. She had seen truth in his actions, and no whispers could take that away. One night, Illyra stood once more on the balcony where they had spoken before the battle. The city below was scarred, but alive. Aaron stood beside her, silent, his eyes on the stars. She turned to him and asked again, though her voice was stronger this time. "When the next storm comes, will you stand with me still?" Aaron's reply came without pause. "I gave you my answer once, and it will never change. I will stand by your side until the end." Her heart was stunned again, not by the words themselves, but by the certainty with which he spoke them. In that moment, Illyra knew that her life had changed. The empire would rise or fall, but she would not face its path alone. The question had returned, but the answer was clear. The bond between human and princess was no longer a fragile thread. It was a chain of trust, stronger than steel, forged in fire and sealed in choice. And as the stars shone above, Illyra whispered to herself, "This human has given me more than hope. He has given me something I never knew I could have: faith." The weeks of rebuilding had given the empire new strength, yet peace remained fragile. Far beyond their skies, rival fleets gathered, angered by their defeat. The enemy had not forgotten the humiliation, and whispers of a greater war spread like fire through the stars. Inside the palace, the council argued once more. Some wanted to strike first, others demanded stronger walls, and a few still doubted the presence of the human in their midst. But this time, the princess did not remain silent. Illyra stood before them, her voice clear and commanding. "You speak of fear and pride," she declared, "but you forget who stood with us when our walls were falling. You forget who bled for this empire while many of you argued in safety. Aaron is not our weakness. He is our strength." The chamber fell quiet. The council could not deny her words. Many of them had seen the human lead soldiers with courage, many had seen him save lives without hesitation. In the silence, Aaron himself spoke. "I do not seek to rule," he said simply. "I do not seek your throne or your power. I seek only to keep my crew safe and to honor the trust given to me. If you wish for peace, I will help build it. If war comes, I will stand at the front." The nobles exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time, they began to see him not as an intruder but as a shield. Days later, the enemy came. A vast fleet of dark ships broke through the outer borders and moved straight toward the capital world. Their commander declared vengeance, swearing to reduce the empire to ashes. The palace shook with fear, but Aaron did not waver. He walked to the war room, placed his hands on the star map, and began to shape a plan. "Your fleets are strong," he told the generals, "but they are rigid. They expect the enemy to follow the same patterns as before. They will not. We must strike where they do not expect us. We must be bold." His plan was daring, almost reckless, but Illyra supported him. "He has earned our trust," she said firmly. "Let him lead." The council hesitated, but with the enemy closing in, they had no choice. When the battle began, the skies above the capital burned with fire. Enemy ships rained plasma, and the Empire's fleets rose to meet them. In the center of it all, Aaron's small vessel darted like a shadow, weaving between the giants. His crew followed him without doubt, their loyalty absolute. Aaron guided them straight into the heart of the enemy formation. Where the Empire's warships fought in lines, he struck like a blade, cutting through the weak points. Explosions shook the void, and enemy commanders scrambled to respond. On the ground, Illyra stood on the walls again, leading soldiers and giving hope with her presence. Her voice carried strength, her courage spreading like fire among her people. Every soldier who saw her felt their spirit rise. The battle raged for hours. At one moment, it seemed the Empire might break. The enemy flagship, larger than any other, moved directly toward the capital. Its cannons glowed, ready to fire a strike that could destroy the palace itself. But Aaron was already there. His ship, battered and scarred, flew straight into the storm. The crew warned him of the risk, but his voice was steady. If we fall here, all falls with us. Hold steady. We make our stand. The clash was fierce. His vessel slipped between the enemy flagship's guns, striking at close range. Explosions lit the sky, pieces of metal drifting into the void. At last, Aaron saw the weak point, a glowing core exposed for a moment. Now, he shouted, and his crew fired everything they had. The blast tore through the flagship's heart, and the giant ship broke apart in a wave of fire. The enemy fleet faltered, their courage shattered. Without their leader, they scattered, retreating into the stars. Cheers erupted across the Empire. The capital was safe, the enemy defeated. Soldiers shouted Aaron's name, and nobles bowed their heads in respect. For the first time, the human was no longer seen as an outsider. He was seen as a hero. When the battle ended, Illyra found him again on the balcony where so many words had been spoken before. His uniform was torn, his face marked with smoke, but his eyes were calm. She stepped closer, her heart filled with gratitude. "You saved us again," she whispered. "Not with titles, not with crowns, but with courage. Tell me, human, why do you always stand when others would fall?" Aaron looked out at the stars, then back at her. "Because when I give my word, I keep it. Because when I choose to stand by someone, I do not turn away. You asked me once if I would leave. My answer has not changed." Illyra's eyes softened, and for the first time, her voice carried no doubt. "Then hear mine as well. I will not let you walk alone, Aaron. Wherever your path leads, I will stand with you too." The stars burned bright above them, carrying their words into the endless night. And so, the story of the human and the princess was no longer a tale of chance. It became the story of unity, of trust, and of a bond that proved stronger than war. The Empire had seen the truth, that sometimes, the greatest strength does not come from bloodlines or crowns, but from the simple courage of one human who chose to stand.